I have my first guest for today, and it is Ildi Racz, the founder and CEO of The Time Fix. And today, Ildi is going to be talking about grounding ourselves. And what she means by that is getting ourselves more prepared, resetting our rituals that we have, and setting clear goals. Now, welcome to the studio, Ildi, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Faye, for having me today, and welcome everyone.
Tell us about what you want to share for today about getting grounded, because I think we all need that, don't we?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I just found that the past 2 months just flew by like, I don't know, like a day, or it feels like that. It just feels like time has sped up. It's a really interesting thing when you hear this from someone who is specializing on time and time management and time mindset. But the reality is that we all have our own perception on time. Most of the people that I've been talking to lately are saying exactly the same thing. It just feels like time moves on at a different kind of speed than ever before. And I think it has something to do with all the things that we had in the past 2 years, things like lockdowns and businesses slowing down and uncertainty and not knowing exactly where we're going and all these things. And right now, it feels like that the moment that the doors opened and we kind of have finally some sort of vision to the future, things just took off, but they took off a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And what we can actually follow. So it kind of feels like we're lagging behind, or at least that's my sensation. It's as much as I'm organized and I know what I need to do and I'm doing all the right things, it still feels like time is kind of one step ahead of me. So this past week I have been thinking quite a lot about what else can I do to actually either speed myself up to time or slow down time to my pace.
Well, when you learn that secret, please share it with me, because time, it's just moving so quickly. And is it that we're always busy? And I always say sometimes I'd like to be bored, but because I don't know what bored is, because there's always something to do. and it could be wasting time doing it, but the days, the weeks, the months, there's 2 months of the year already gone. Where?
That's true. But I mean, the problem is that the biggest issue that I see with this is that there's so much to do that we actually forget to take care of ourselves. And
very true.
Because we hit that how to say, that sense of tiredness that comes when you're doing too much too quickly. It just feels like we forget to take care of ourselves. And in saying that, for example, last Thursday, I usually do an early morning networking event, and I do that on a regular basis every single Thursday. I jumped back in the car, I came home, which I, by the way, never do, because if I go into the city, I like maximizing my time in the city. But I actually came home and I switched off for the day. It just felt like if I don't take off the day and if I don't take that break, then it will have its toll on my health. And it was the right decision to do. But how do you recognize this? How do you know when to slow down and when to speed up? How do you know how to tackle the jobs? There's a lot of how do you know kind of questions that are floating around.
And it's not that when you get tired that you need to stop. It's before you get tired.
100%.
You have to stop so that you can re-energize yourself and do the things so that you're ready to do the things that really need to be done.
It's like a good lithium-ion battery. You have to charge it before it actually depletes.
Well, yes, it's true, because sometimes burn the candle at both ends, as the saying goes. And we don't give ourselves time just to relax and re-energize and be kind to ourselves.
100%. And this is why I was thinking, what are the main things that I find that help me stay on top of things, and that I usually tell everyone to do in order to actually get there. And I know, please don't get me wrong, if anyone, I do understand that there's no one size fits all in this thing. I think we've spoken about behavior and how that connects with time and time mindset, and how it actually affects you as a person and what you do from the perspective of good or not so good time management. But I think one of the main things that I would suggest right now to do is design your week. Because even if you don't like fixed things or well structured things in your life, by actually designing your week in a manner that actually suits you, will help you realize what are your real priorities, what are the things that are on the absolute must do list, and what are the things that are just fillers, what are the things that we are doing just for the pleasure of ticking off, or what are the things that we do that actually move our businesses forward, or our lives forward for that matter, because it's not just about business, it's about life in general too. So designing carefully your week, I think it is imperative. And if you say that you don't like to plan, when I say design your week, is more about looking at your week like a big puzzle. And don't take me the wrong way again, just start piecing the things together and see what fits in it and what doesn't fit in it. And if you figure out what are the puzzle pieces, then it becomes so much easier to realize what needs to go into next week, or what needs to be outsourced, or what needs to be passed on to someone else, or what can be dropped and it's unnecessarily totally, and it would be just a filler that maybe just pretties up something, but it doesn't actually have a positive effect on our lives. So identifying those puzzle pieces that will help you design your week is crucial right now.
And it will give you, if you do that and you know what you're doing or what you've got coming up every day, there can be spaces in there where you can have a bit of time to yourself to revitalize, or just sit, read a book, listen to some music, just catch up with someone for coffee or something like that.
Well, Faye, I do believe that you should actually have a puzzle piece that is called self-care in that package, and that has to be fitted in every single day, and you have to actually make sure that it has a space in your life every single day, because otherwise it becomes this perpetuum mobile, when you feel like you're working,
Chasing your tail.
and you can't really actually stop, you can't breathe. So I definitely think that designing your week is one of the most important things. But once you design your week, the second bit that I find that is really, really important right now, and we can go back in a second to what else can you do around the designing your week, is once you designed your week, how do you make sure that you get in the right headspace? And that is all about rituals. You might not like this word, but in the end, it's all about rituals. And I'm not sure about you, but I know I'm super excited to see people.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's so much fun to actually have that proper interaction, to be amongst people.
That face to face, and not just on screen or on the phone. And it's a really important part of who we are,
100%.
to have that face to face connection. And, people are now, from today, allowed to go back into the office. How many of them are actually going to choose to go into the office and are really excited about it? How many are going full-time? How many are going part-time? How many don't want to go back to the office at all? I know where I'd be. I wouldn't want to go back to the office. No, thanks.
Well, look, the reality is that as much as it is absolutely and totally exciting to see people, it comes with a toll. We might not like it, but it comes with travel time, it comes with extra preparation, it comes with making sure that your children are picked up from school and from train stations and so on. It comes with extra stuff that you have to do in order to have the luxury of meeting people in person. Mm-hmm. So in the end, what I mean is that this is the time to start rethinking those rituals that we have around everything, those things that we used to have, but now we don't, because for the past 2 years, we've done things totally differently. I do believe that seeing people in person has its toll, and you have to find that fine line. So where's that border? How much of this can I do without having a huge price on it? Because unfortunately, travel time just jumped from 40-50 minutes from my end to 1.5 hours.
Yeah, and that's a big chunk out of your day in
100%.
one direction, and then you've got to do it again in the other direction, and there might be some more things like, more traffic at the certain time of day that you're traveling. Then, you get home, you're tired, and after you've been out all day.
You see, the thing is that it actually ties in really well again with that designing your week, because now you have to be a lot more conscious. If you are going to see people in person, then make sure that you look at who's in that area and maximize your time so that you reduce the travel time. That's just one example. But there's a lot of little things to consider that we didn't have to consider previously. Plus, there's that little thing called, do I really have to go to the office? Where do I feel comfortable? Where am I more productive? Knowing what space are you more productive in? And if you have to go into the office, what does that mean? And it's all about realizing what kind of rituals, what kind of habits do you need to reactivate in order to be able to bring your A game to the table. So when I talk about rituals, I'm not just talking about, the good old get up, do this, do that, and then go to work, but I'm actually talking about what I call reset rituals. How do you get in the right headspace to be able to work wherever you are?
Because, going into the office, and I will say all these people that are going back into the office are going to be very social to start with. How much work are they going to get done in the first week or the first couple of days? And they probably would find themselves being more productive at home. They have more time. So it's that flexibility. They've lost that flexibility if they go back into the workplace.
It's a funny thing there, Faye. I don't necessarily agree 100% with that sentence. Sorry. Oh, Faye.
You just give me a hard time, Ildi.
I know. But the reality is that, again, it goes back to those behavioral styles that I usually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really depends on
have
who you are.
I don't have any of those. I don't have any.
It's true. If you are more of a systems and processes kind of person, then probably going back to the office is not necessarily your best option. You probably would be a lot more productive at home, unless you have an office where you can close the door and do what you were doing at home. But in that case, the big question is, why on earth would you actually travel 1.5 hours just for the sake of being in an office?
I wouldn't.
It just raises questions. But if you are an influencer, so meaning you're a people person, you're the life of the
party,
not just party, life of everything of the group,
office.
then probably to you going back to the office is important, because it will mean that you get to reconnect, you get to recharge your batteries, you get to create that different kind of energy that you need to be able to do what you do best.
Yeah.
So it really depends on who you are, and honoring who you are is so important, especially now that we have the freedom to decide what do we really like.
Oh, yes. And I think that there'll be people who will go back to the office for a while and realize that's not what they want to do.
100%. Again, I can't repeat enough.
They've got to try it first and see how they feel. The excitement will go out of it eventually, and in a very short space of time, I would imagine.
The reality is that the more you know about yourself and the more you understand your personal relationship with your time and your personal productivity styles, the easier this transition will be, the easier it will be to realize what you need to do, what you need to ask for. I mean, if you're a business owner, obviously you're in control. But if you are an employee, then you need to know what to ask for. Do you ask for 3 days at home, 2 days in the office? Do you ask for 1 day in the office, 4 days at home? Do you ask for 4 days in the office and 1 day at home? I don't know what your recipe is, but honoring your personal relationship with time and productivity is crucial. And even if you do that, then the big question is, how do you get in the groove of doing things no matter where you are? And that's all about those reset rituals that I'm trying to get you to think about. Because in the end, if you have good reset rituals, and if you know exactly what you need to do to get in that mindset and space, headspace that takes you to great productivity, then it's easy. Then you can recreate something similar no matter where you are.
But if you have never set rituals or boundaries or whatever it might be, it'll be very difficult for you.
Come and talk to me.
Come and talk to you. Absolutely.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Absolutely.
I'm joking. But the reality is that if you haven't ever thought about these things, then now is the time to start noticing. Make sure that you write down when something works. So if you found yourself that you've been super productive today, then stop at the end of the day and start thinking about, what did I do at the beginning of the day? How did I set myself up?
How did you do it? Yeah.
How did I do it? How did I get there? Because that sequence of things that you've done, they are probably a key puzzle piece in how to get any time in the groove of doing things.
Yeah.
Or the other end, if something didn't work, then you need to start and think about, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What was the one thing or the two things or the three things that just set me on the wrong path?
Yeah.
And it all starts with noticing. We're
talking about grounding ourselves and looking at rituals or boundaries, or how we work through our weeks and how much time or how quickly our time goes. And because we've been in a space where we haven't had to do a lot of travel and things, and now people are going back to work, and we really have to think about what you have to do in the morning, get the kids up, get their lunches, make sure they get to school on time, you get to work on time, who's picking the kids up, what's happening after school with the sport, etc., while you're at work. Whereas when you were home, you had that bit of flexibility. You could drop the kids off, come back home, do some work, go and pick the kids up, etc., etc. So, Ildi, let's talk about, I suppose, getting our perspective right on what we really want to do in life and what we don't want to do, and really recognize and be aware of that.
Wow, this is leading very nicely into my third thing that I noted down and I wanted to talk about today. And I suppose that's setting some clear intentions or goals or actions. I really don't mind which one you prefer to work with. Some people love to work with intentions. Some people love goals. Some people are more on the action side. You might say that actions are coming after goals. Not for everyone. It doesn't matter what you call it, but knowing exactly what you want to get out of the week at the beginning of the week actually helps you stay on target and work out what needs to happen. I could almost say that this should be your number one before you even design the week, before we even talk about designing the week. Having that clarity around what you want to get out of your week, month, quarter is so important at the moment. Otherwise, you're just passing on the reins to someone else.
And how do you know, what's important, what you want? How do you, there's a lot of discipline in this.
Yes and no. Again, I
You've If you've
I
never
don't
said,
agree 100% with
I
this.
know you never agree 100% with me, Ildi, but that's okay.
And the reason why I don't agree 100% with this again is because it really depends. It depends on, again, on who you are and how do you like doing things. In some cases, yes, it comes down to discipline. But in the end, if you set your goals the right way, and if they are realistic and achievable, and if they really fit time-wise, I mean, as in doing-wise in your week, then that little thing called, discipline, it becomes
A natural thing. Oh, yeah. Redundant, or just it is just something that you do because
No,
you've
it's
built it into.
redundant because it fits in everything you do. So it's not about, let's put it this way. To me, discipline means that I have to remind myself again and again and again and again and again and again that I need to do something. While if it is part of my little world, and I do it because it's part of what I planned to do for this week, and it's part of my big puzzle, then it it's not discipline. It's just simply a natural succession of the things that need to happen.
Yeah.
They have its own place. And you have to remember that I'm not a systems and processes person. So when I say this, I'm saying this from the perspective of someone whose second nature is not having the discipline. It's really that the fact that I have to remind myself to do things, but I design my weeks in a manner so that they are enjoyable. They have a variety of different things, and I have a clear goal as to what do I want to get out of the coming week. So it's really making sure that you don't just jump on the doing side, but you actually make sure that you have enjoyable things. You have the things that you love doing. You have fun in what you do.
And achieving, know what you want to achieve for the week, or each day, and it's broken down into chunks, not big, huge things, because that can become overwhelming.
Well, Faye, this is why I hate using big to-do lists. And I know people look at me weirdly when I say that I don't necessarily have big to-do lists. I look at my to-do list at the beginning of the week and I cut it up into tiny little pieces, and they go in my week in different spots. So it's not overwhelming, it's not daunting, it's not hard to tackle.
Yeah. And that's the way it needs to be, because if it's hard to tackle, we often become overwhelmed and think, well, where do I start? Where do I finish? How long is it going to take? It's going to take me forever. So therefore you have this negative vibration to start with, whereas you could make it easier and say, well, okay, I need to get this bit done today now, and I can do this bit later, and I can do this bit later, and then it all comes together, or something like that.
But I also have to mention, that not everyone is like us.
I know. And
I meet so many beautiful people, and some people actually function the best possible way with a big to-do list. Me neither, but that doesn't mean that if you are that person who needs that to-do list down to the last, I don't know, pick up the pen kind of to-do list, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you function at your peak, then please don't change. Please don't change. Then do what you do because that works for you. So it's really understanding how do you work the best possible way, and how do you make sure that you get the right outcome of everything that you do as an activity throughout the week. And in the end, it all comes down, and I can't say it enough, it all comes down to you. How do you like doing things? Understanding your style, understanding what works for you, and not allowing other people's solutions to take over your life.
Yeah. I think you've got to realize that it's you taking control and not allowing other people to take control of it for you. Because when someone else takes control, it can get out of perspective and create a lot of loss of time or whatever it may be. So we are responsible. So therefore we have to take responsibility and take control of what needs to be done.
I guess the one key thing that no one talks enough of in this whole process is reviewing.
Yes, yeah, let's talk about that.
Reviewing.
Review your day or your week.
Everything. I think there's that saying that statistically we know that about 1% of the population does all three things when it comes to goals. One, setting them, two, writing them down, and the third one is reviewing them. So there's a lot of people who actually do the first two, but then they forget to do the number three, which is reviewing. But I find that reviewing is one of the most powerful ways of identifying everything in your life, because if you review the right way your day, your week, your month, you'll find your gaps. You'll find what works for you and what doesn't work for you. You'll find what you need to change. You'll find the habits that serve you and the habits that don't serve you. You will find a lot of things if you just stop and look backwards a little bit and review. I don't mean on dwelling on the past and digging deep and digging the dirt and so on. It's not about that.
Yeah, just explain what you mean by review. When you've done something, you review it and see, what you've done, how well it's been done, whether you could have done it better here or there or whatever, so you can improve on what you do next time.
Yes.
That's part of reviewing. What
Yes.
other parts are there to it?
The other big thing, another big part of reviewing is awareness. That awareness that comes with not just that the things are done, but how exactly are they done? Where could I have done something differently to have the same outcome, but quicker or better? Or quicker and better. So it's that awareness, that is that self-awareness of honesty towards ourselves.
Yeah.
Because in the end, your reviewing is not about sharing it with everyone else. It's not about that big board that will come and dig into what you've done and dissect it. It's about me looking back to my day and thinking about what did I do in a manner that I could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Where did I waste time?
And you have to be honest.
Present enough.
Yeah. And you have to be honest when you're doing that.
Yes.
So where you waste time, and being honest with yourself instead of kidding yourself.
Look, the other thing is that depending again with what kind of behavioral style dominates you'll find that reviewing will help you identify where you are leaking time. You'll find that I'll just give you a really quick example. I have quite a few clients who actually are in that stabilizer kind of space. They are the ones who don't realize that they have enough time, but because they are afraid of not having enough time, they create stress and overwhelm that actually choose uptime. It's a really wicked space to be in and to live in. And me, myself, my secondary behavioral style is that stabilizer space. So I can find myself easily in that space where I'm afraid that I don't have enough time. So noticing that helps me realize that I have just exactly the right amount of time that I need. Even more so, I already built in the buffers that make sure that whatever happens, I'll still be fine.
Yeah, and planning things, put it down on paper so you can actually see what you need to do. It's not about just keeping it up in your head. It's about writing it down so you can see it visually, and then you can make a lot more sense of it, and you can look at the time that it may take,
now we're talking time techniques here, but the reality is that we are visual creatures. So whether you like it or not, even if you use an online diary, making sure that you're not just having a one-line item on your to-do list, but actually you time block for that item on your to-do list is so important, because it will give you a visual representation of where does your time go. So it's quite important to try and help and aid your decision making with as many visual tools as possible. Things like color, things like time blocking, handwriting or not handwriting. It really depends on who you are and how you like to function. But having visual aids to help you in this process is so important, because they will be the key to success in the end. They will show you what you can do and what you can't do. They will show you when you're overcommitting or undercommitting. Both are real problem, because in the end, if you finish too early, you can have exactly the same kind of overwhelm that you could have when you're not finishing anything on time, because that self-doubt kicks in that space, and you start thinking about, why did I finish this quick? What
Have I
went
missed
wrong?
something? Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
wrong?
So you start questioning yourself or doubting yourself.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand of that too, it can be that if you're blocking out that time and allowing X amount of time for a particular task, if you finish it early, it can be something that's really exciting, because you've got that extra time that you can spend just giving yourself a little bit of nurturing.
But you have to have that reassurance that you haven't done anything wrong, that everything went like clockwork, and that extra time is there with a purpose. Because otherwise, self-doubt and all these other things from the back
These
of your
little
mind,
stories.
yes, they start kicking in and they take over, and suddenly you find yourself that you should be already doing something else, and you're still thinking about what did you do wrong with the first thing.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, how things can run smoothly, but we can still doubt ourselves. It's a bit sad, really, when you think about it.
Absolutely. You might think that if I have a lot of time, that's so much better. But the reality is that it's not necessarily so much better. So it really
Yeah.
depends. And again, I can't emphasize enough that knowing yourself as good as possible and understanding exactly what productivity means to you and how do you function at your peak is one of the key things when it comes to it. And this is what I call time mindset. Having clarity around your own personal time mindset is one of the most important things you will do for yourself and for the job that you do, no matter what that is.
Yeah. One tip for anyone who feels, they're going back to work and they're in overwhelm, what would you say to them?
Stop and do these 3 things that we just spoke about. Stop. That's the first thing. Stop. Design your week. Have some reset rituals. Know exactly what you need to do to be productive, and have a clear set of goals, actions, or intentions. And the bonus tip here would be review, 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 and review again.
I think that's probably where I fall down in the review bit. It's really quite interesting. Well, Ildi, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time. It is always wonderful to speak to you, because we always pick up something new, lots and lots of different things that are new. So thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure, Faye. Thank you very much for having me.